This harrowing incident unfolded in 1993. While time may have blurred the memory for some, the reverberations of this brutal crime continue to impact law enforcement and legislation in the United States to this day. Jennifer Erdman, born August 15, 1978, and Elizabeth Pena, born June 21, 1977, were close friends residing in Houston, Texas. These two girls, both high school students, shared a bond forged in childhood. Elizabeth's father later attested to Jennifer's character, describing her as a kind, intelligent, and positive influence on his daughter. They were inseparable companions. Both girls came from families with high expectations. Fashionably dressed, with a shared interest in jewelry and makeup, they also led active lives, enjoying basketball. Those who knew them well considered their friendship exemplary. Jennifer and Elizabeth lived full teenage lives, filled with friends, ambitions, and dreams. They were constantly together, socializing in the same circles and attending the same parties. On June 24, 1993, they planned to attend a pool party at the home of their friend, Gina. The plan was to meet at Elizabeth's house, who had recently turned 16, before heading to the party. 14-year-old Jennifer's father, Randy, dropped her off at Elizabeth's around 4:45 p.m. There, they prepared for the party, getting dressed and ready before proceeding to Gina's. Elizabeth's mother drove them to the party, arriving around 8 p.m. Their parents had set a curfew of 11:30 p.m., a rule the girls, known for their responsibility, consistently honored. They assured their parents they would be home on time that night as well. However, on this occasion, Jennifer and Elizabeth became engrossed in the festivities, losing track of time. Shortly after 11 p.m., they realized they were late and hastily departed Gina's house. Two routes presented themselves: their usual way, along a well-lit but longer route, or a shortcut through a local park and along the railroad tracks, saving them 10 to 15 minutes. Anxious to avoid upsetting their parents and worried about being late, they chose the quicker path. Cell phones were a nascent technology in 1993, not readily available like today. The girls had no way to contact their families and allay any concerns. Furthermore, public awareness of personal safety wasn't as prevalent. Neither the girls nor their parents perceived the shortcut as dangerous. In that era, a sense of trust and security prevailed, and locking doors was less common. Without a second thought, the friends opted for the faster route. This path led them through the dimly lit park and across the railroad embankment, a decision that would tragically seal their fate. Around 4 a.m., Jennifer's mother awoke, noticing the light in her daughter's room was still on. This was unusual, as Jennifer always switched it off at night. She checked the room. It was empty. Growing worried, she tried calling Elizabeth's parents, thinking Jennifer might have stayed over. Unable to reach them, she then tried Gina, at whose house the party had been, but again, no answer. Jennifer's parents began searching. Their first stop was Elizabeth's house, but no one answered. Jennifer's father then went to Gina's, learning that the girls had left around 11 p.m. He returned to Elizabeth's house, where her parents, also searching for their daughter since morning, confirmed they hadn't seen her since the previous evening. The two girls had vanished. Frantic, the families contacted 911. Given the circumstances, police immediately launched a search. Two teenage girls missing overnight raised serious concerns. The possibility of them running away was dismissed. Their belongings and money were at home, and they had no apparent motive for such drastic action. They both came from stable, loving families. The parents also sprang into action, creating and distributing flyers with their daughter's pictures, canvassing the neighborhood, and questioning anyone who might have seen them the previous night. However, their efforts yielded no leads. For agonizing days passed with no news. Police followed up on tips, but to no avail. The crucial 48-hour window had closed, and despite hopes for their daughter's safe return, the authorities feared the worst. On the fourth day, a chilling anonymous call came into the police department. The caller claimed the bodies of Jennifer and Elizabeth were in a wooded area behind the park, near the shortcut they had taken. Officers immediately responded, meticulously searching the area. After crossing the railroad embankment, they spotted something in a small, tree-encircled clearing. As they approached, they were horrified to discover two bodies, lying on their backs, unclothed and badly decomposed in the summer heat, approximately 20 meters apart. The state of decomposition made identification difficult. The scene itself spoke of a violent struggle. The ground was disturbed, with numerous footprints, drag marks, and signs of a fight. The extent of the girls' ordeal in their final moments remained unknown. Police notified the media of the grim discovery. During this time, Jennifer's father, while giving an interview pleading for information, learned the devastating news. He immediately rushed to the scene, attempting to breach the police cordon, convinced his daughter was there. Law enforcement struggled to restrain the distraught man at the wooded crime scene. He desperately questioned the officers about the hair color of the discovered bodies, but they were reluctant to provide details. The remains were severely decomposed and damaged, making immediate identification impossible, though suspicion fell upon two missing girls. All available evidence was immediately transported to the forensic laboratory, where experts meticulously examined the bodies. Dental records ultimately confirmed the identities of the deceased as 14-year-old Jennifer Erdman and 16-year-old Elizabeth Pena. Identification was challenging due to the advanced state of decomposition caused by heat and insects over the 4-day search period. From the outset, the investigation pointed towards foul play. Numerous, overlapping footprints at the scene indicated the presence of multiple individuals, though the precise number remained unclear pending further analysis. The trampled ground complicated accurate footprint assessment. Autopsies revealed strangulation as the cause of death for both teenagers. The lack of widespread DNA technology and a comparative database at the time presented significant investigative hurdles. A crucial lead emerged through an anonymous tip, directing authorities to the body's location. This informant clearly possessed additional information that could prove vital to the case. Tracing the call, police swiftly located the source and arrived at the residence of brothers Joe and Peter Cantu. Only Joe was present, and he immediately confessed to being the anonymous caller. He implicated his brother, Peter, and 5 associates in the brutal murders of the 2 young women. Joe granted officers permission to search the premises, where they quickly discovered several pieces of female jewelry. These items were later identified by the victims' families as belonging to Elizabeth and Jennifer, worn on the night of their disappearance. DNA analysis confirmed the presence of the girls' genetic material on the jewelry. Joe Cantu's account allowed detectives to reconstruct the horrific events. Shortly after 11 p.m., the 2 girls were walking through the park. They encountered Romano and Frank Sandoval, who had recently departed a gang initiation ceremony, leaving 6 individuals between the ages of 14 and 18 behind. The oldest present were 18-year-olds Jose Medellin, Derek Brine, and Peter Cantu. Raul Villarreal, 17, had just that night completed his initiation rite. Also present were 17-year-old Efren Perez and 14-year-old Venancio Medellin. Unknowingly, the girls walked toward the clearing where the initiation had taken place. A simple warning from the Sandoval brothers might have saved their lives, but they remained silent. Elizabeth walked slightly ahead of Jennifer as they neared their home, just over a kilometer away. Suddenly, Jose Medellin emerged from the darkness and attempted to grab Elizabeth. She evaded his grasp and quickened her pace, but Medellin pursued her, seizing her by the neck and dragging her toward the clearing where the others waited. Hearing Elizabeth's screams, Jennifer attempted to rescue her friend, a decision that tragically sealed her fate. Jennifer could have escaped and alerted authorities, but instead, she rushed toward the clearing, unaware of the group's presence. She was quickly captured and thrown to the ground beside Elizabeth. The group then subjected the girls to an hour of brutal and repeated sexual assault, punctuated by savage beatings. Forensic evidence indicated that the girls fiercely resisted their attackers, scratching, biting, and kicking, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. All the assailants bore marks of the girls' desperate struggle. The victims' pleas for help and attempts to comfort one another were to no avail. Following the assault, gang leader Peter Cantu, fearing identification and arrest, ordered the girls' deaths. Raul Villarreal forced Jennifer to kneel, and he and Derek Byrne placed a red belt around her neck. They tightened the belt with such force that it snapped, ending Jennifer's life. They then continued to strangle her with shoelaces to ensure her death. Elizabeth was forced to witness this horrific act, fully aware that she was next. She pleaded for her life, promising silence, but her pleas were ignored. In a final desperate act, she broke free and attempted to flee, but her exhausted and injured body couldn't carry her far. She was recaptured, thrown to the ground, and brutally kicked, sustaining broken ribs and losing teeth. Peter Cantu, Jose Medellin, and Derek Byrne then strangled her with shoelaces. The assailants further ensured the girls' deaths by stepping on their throats, then robbed them of their jewelry and money. All but Derek Byrne then proceeded to Peter Cantu's residence, where his brother Joe and Joe's wife Christina were present. Christina noted the bloodstains on their clothing and their agitated state. Instead of concealing their crimes, the group boastfully recounted the horrific details to Joe and Christina, even laughing as they described the atrocities. I can provide a rephrased version of the text, ensuring it's suitable for a YouTube audience while adhering to the given guidelines. This harrowing story recounts the brutal double murder of Elizabeth and Jennifer. Jose, a key figure in the crime, revealed details that deeply disturbed Peter's brother and his wife, Christina. Instead of open confrontation, the couple listened intently, absorbing the shocking narrative. They became convinced of the perpetrator's honesty, grasping the gravity of the situation. After the crime, Jose and Christina were left alone. Christina, deeply affected and recalling a past trauma of sexual assault, voiced her anguish and fear to Jose. She argued that such violent criminals needed to be imprisoned. Initially hesitant due to familial ties and fear of reprisal, Joe was ultimately persuaded by Christina to contact the authorities anonymously. The day following the murders, Joe contacted law enforcement. However, unaware of the girl's disappearance, the police dismissed his call. Later, as the search for the missing girls began, Joe's initial report was overlooked. He and Christina anxiously followed news reports, growing increasingly concerned by the lack of progress. On the second day, disappointed by the apparent inaction, Joe contacted the police again, providing further details. Despite the immense personal risk, he persisted in his efforts. By the fourth day, his information led to the discovery of the girls' bodies. To validate his account, Joe revealed the stolen jewelry and valuables, including Elizabeth's ring, which Jose had intended as a gift, demonstrating a chilling lack of awareness. A torn red belt fragment, matching the murder weapon, was found in the brothers' home. On June 29, 1993, all 6 individuals involved were apprehended. Derek's attempted escape during his arrest further solidified his connection to the crime. His inquiry about the arrest's link to the girls confirmed the accuracy of the tip. He confessed to providing Jose with a murder weapon. A matching belt fragment with Jennifer's DNA was found in his possession. Raul, a recent gang initiate, was also detained. Overwhelming evidence and confessions led to charges of double murder, rape, and torture. Each perpetrator was tried individually, forcing the victims' families to relive the horrific details 6 times. They steadfastly pursued capital punishment. Jennifer's father later recounted a chilling encounter at the crime scene, where Derek had smiled and waved, a gesture he later recognized as mocking his grief. 5 of the 6 were sentenced to death. Venancio Medellin, who cooperated and testified against the others, excluding his brother, received a 40-year sentence due to his age at the time of the crime. He would be eligible for release at 54. Following the trial, another potential murder surfaced. Jacques, the initial informant, implicated Peter Cantu, Jose Medellin, and Derek O'Brien in the unsolved murder of Patricia Lopez, whose body had been found 6 months earlier. The crime exhibited a similar modus operandi. DNA evidence eventually linked Jose to the crime, and Derek's fingerprint was found on a beer can at the scene. Though Derek confessed to being present, he claimed intoxication prevented his full awareness or participation. Despite this, given his existing death sentence, further charges weren't pursued. Raul Villarreal's defense argued for leniency due to his recent gang initiation and lack of experience. However, the prosecution successfully argued that his presence, participation, and failure to intervene constituted a voluntary decision. He, too, received the death penalty. This unprecedented case, with 5 death sentences, shocked the nation. The story dominated headlines, instilling fear and prompting avoidance of the area. Elizabeth and Jennifer's families attended every trial and execution, seeking justice for their daughters. The first conviction in the case, resulting in execution, was that of Derek Sean O'Brien in July 2006. He uniquely expressed remorse before his death by lethal injection, offering apologies to the victims' families just moments before the sentence was carried out, calling his actions the gravest error of his life. Despite Brian's repentance, Jennifer's father, Randy, remained resolute. While some, even those in influential positions, opposed capital punishment, arguing that lethal injection constituted cruel and unusual punishment, the victims' families dismissed these arguments. Derek O'Brien died swiftly in just 20 seconds and without apparent suffering. Randy, witnessing the execution, pointedly remarked that his daughter's agonizing death had lasted over an hour. He expressed a wish that her passing could have been as painless as an injection. Prior to the execution, he had vehemently declared his hope that Derek would experience the same brutal end he inflicted upon Jennifer. Jose's execution also ignited controversy, even reaching an international level. It emerged that Jose was a Mexican national who hadn't communicated with his consulate before his trial, a right guaranteed by the Vienna Convention and consular agreements. While the U.S. was a signatory to the convention, it had withdrawn from mandatory jurisdiction in 1986. Nevertheless, Mexico brought a case against the United States before the International Court of Justice, ICJ. The ICJ ordered a hearing for Jose Medellin to assess whether the lack of consular access prejudiced his defense. The case garnered significant media attention and involved human rights organizations, amplifying the gravity of the situation. In 2005, then-President George W. Bush Jr. ordered hearings, but the Texas governor resisted. He challenged the order in the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled that only Congress held the authority to mandate such proceedings. The ICJ, in July 2005, ordered a stay of execution and a consular hearing for Jose, but the Texas governor asserted that the state wasn't bound by the ICJ's decisions. Death penalty opponents protested the impending execution. However, the victims' families countered, demanding lethal injection for such a heinous crime. One can only speculate about the thoughts of the condemned man as this legal battle unfolded. He likely clung to the hope of a reprieve. Prior to his execution on August 5, 2008, the Supreme Court denied his final appeal. In the last moments, the Texas governor rejected pleas for postponement from Mexico and Washington, arguing that the sentence was justified given Jose's brutal torture, rape, and strangulation of 2 teenage girls 15 years prior in Houston. Jose Medellin was subsequently executed. 2 years after Derek's execution, Jose Medellin met his end. On August 17, 2010, gang leader Peter Cantu was executed by lethal injection, declining a final statement. The victim's parents later expressed satisfaction with the court's decision and the execution. They also hoped that the perpetrators who evaded the death penalty would remain incarcerated for life. While these sentences were being carried out, the Supreme Court ruled against executing minors, resulting in life sentences for Efren Perez and Raul Villarreal, with parole eligibility in 2029. The events profoundly impacted Houston, shattering lives and underscoring the persistent gang problem. A memorial now stands at the site of the horrific initiation, commemorating the tragedy that claimed the lives of the 2 schoolgirls. Another memorial exists at their school. Jennifer's family, spearheaded by Randy, fought tirelessly to hold all the perpetrators accountable. To date, the 14-year-old offender has applied for parole over 5 times. Each time, Jennifer's family, led by Randy, has vehemently opposed these attempts. He maintained that the juvenile perpetrators, despite their age, should never be released. Randy gave numerous interviews, vowing to fight relentlessly to ensure that everyone involved in the crime remained imprisoned. He held to this promise throughout his life. Sadly, Randy succumbed to lung cancer in 2014 at the age of 61. He left a significant legacy, advocating for victims' rights and influencing legislative changes. Due to his efforts, victims' families now have greater legal standing in such cases. During the trials, Randy openly expressed his animosity towards the perpetrators, eliciting both sympathy and criticism. While victims' families previously lacked a platform to express their emotions in court, the system became more receptive after this case. Though attendance at executions was initially restricted, Randy's persistence led to families being present for all the lethal injections, a change he felt brought a measure of justice. The remaining incarcerated gang members continued to petition for parole, hoping for eventual release. Their most recent request was denied in 2020.